Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of Soaking Up SpongeBob, a show where I'm just gonna review through SpongeBob episodes and kind of talk about them from a more deep look perspective, to show why I feel such a connection for this show beyond the fact that it's nostalgia. And there are 9 seasons going on 10 seasons of SpongeBob. Are all of them good? No. But are the first 3 seasons phenomenal and the part of the 4th season okay? Yes. And the new seasons, they're okay too. I'll talk about that in later episodes. But without further ado, let's begin the long-awaited SpongeBob review episode. Dun dun dun! Yeah, I'm doing it, guys. I'm finally doing it. Woo! Okay, so first episode is Help Wanted. Help Wanted is all about SpongeBob, who just wants to go to the Krusty Krab and get his dream job. There's Help Wanted sign in the window, and he knows that for some reason he was born to be a fry cook. So of course SpongeBob runs off to the Krusty Krab, but not after some interesting developments that really show their character. And this is a theme in this episode that I realized when I looked at it deeply. And when I watched through it now as an adult, I realized hey, they do some really cool character development stuff. So I'm going to point it out to you. When SpongeBob wakes up, he gets up and he's all cheery. And he goes down and he's running around. And he jumps off his diving board on top of his bed. It shows that he's energetic. They don't have to tell you that he's energetic. You just see it, that he's energetic. Then he goes downstairs and starts lifting weights. But it's just 2 stuffed animals on either side of the weight. So there's not really any weight to it. So, as you can tell from that, he's not very strong, or maybe not very bright, or both. But that actually comes back in a season 1 episode. Very soon comes back. So that's very surprising, and I like that. But he leaves his house with his signature, "I'm ready!" And he goes off to begin his day and to go take on the Krusty Krab and get that job. That's set up for the entire show right there. Pilot episode. So, it's really the only one that sets up the entire show, but it does such a gosh darn good job of it. And continuing in my main point, which is that this episode in particular, show character traits without, oh, wow, really rubbing it in your face. Later episodes of the show, yeah, they'll do that. But in this particular episode, it tells you everything you need to know about a character the second you see them. So, SpongeBob runs by, and he runs by his friend Patrick's house, which is just a rock. Because Patrick is a starfish, and why wouldn't he live under a rock? Patrick raises up, and we see that basically the important things about Patrick. That he says, way to go, SpongeBob, or might be slightly off. I don't remember. But we know from that he's very supportive of SpongeBob. And this is important in a lot of ways. It's important to the plot of this episode, of course. And it's important to the character of Patrick as a whole, which is important to me. It's what I hold Patrick to as a character, even though it seems like the show has lost track of that. But he cares about SpongeBob, and then he falls off of his rock, going whoa! So we know that Patrick may not be quite so bright either. So SpongeBob runs ahead and decides, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to talk to the manager, and I'm going to say, I'm here for the job. And then he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then he turns around and he's about to go home. And because he's given up. That's something that happens in real life. you just stop and you're like, oh man, I can't do this. What am I thinking? And then like you let fear take over for you. But you can't let that happen. And Patrick doesn't let that happen. Patrick comes in and says, where do you think you're going? You're going to march right in there and you're going to get that job. Whose first words were, may I take your order? Who's a big yellow cube with holes? And, you know, it shows Patrick's character. It's so charming. It's so silly. And that's what amps SpongeBob to really keep going. And that's going to be something that I talk about a lot in this series, is how Patrick's personality kind of got pushed away from the way that it originally was. And the way all characters in the show were. Like, that can be a main topic of debate, because that's so prominent. Like, if you watch a new episode of SpongeBob, you probably won't see most of these character traits that I'm talking about, because they completely change the characters and it just tries to stay relevant, basically. You know what I mean? It adapts to the humor of the time. That's what these new episodes do. So, are they funny? Yeah, averagely. But they're not anywhere near what I would expect of, something that's really, really good. But that was a little tangent. Yay, tangents. But then, continuing on, Squidward is at the door of the Krusty Krab, wiping off someone's graffiti of his face that says, loser. So this immediately shows you a couple things. It shows you that people's opinions of Squidward are perhaps not so positive, and it also shows you that, Squidward, who's grouchily cleaning this off, probably does deserve that because he is a bit of a grouch. So he sees SpongeBob running forward, and he's like, what's SpongeBob doing here? And then his eyes glance over and he sees the Help Wanted sign, and Squidward runs inside to his boss, Mr. Krabs. Now, Mr. Krabs, he's a crab, and guess what he's doing? He's at the cash register, sniffing money. So what does that tell you if someone's sitting there, sniffing money, like, money? That shows you that they probably really enjoy money. And he does. That is literally his main character trait above anything else, money. So, money. SpongeBob comes in, makes a fool of himself, and, trips all over the place, bounces off the walls, and then he just says, I'd like to get a job here, please. And, of course, Mr. Krabs like, doesn't look like you even have your sea legs yet, son. And, SpongeBob's like, no, Mr. Krabs, I promise I'm ready. Just ask Squidward. He'll vouch for me. And Squidward pulls Mr. Krabs aside, and he's just like, no. So Mr. Krabs decides, I'll send off SpongeBob by giving him an impossible, dun-dun-dun task of, go on and get me a hydrodynamic spatula with turbo drive and like all this extra features that has no reason to exist. Maybe it does exist, duh. But maybe we'll see that in the climax of the episode. But, of course, SpongeBob, eager to get his job, runs out, goes to get it. So he's like, I'm going to get this spatula, I'm going to succeed. And meanwhile, Mr. Krabs and Squidward, they're just cracking up because they're like, that we really got him. He'll never be back. He'll never be able to find it. And then buses full of anchovies show up. And apparently anchovies just go meep, 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 meep. And the whole Krusty Krab is flooded with them. They're orderless. They don't follow any rules. And they just start throwing Mr. Krabs and Squidward everywhere because they can't make an orderly line. And, it looks like they're just swarming into the Krusty Krab. It's filling up to the brim. And Mr. Krabs and Squidward are getting scared. They're like, oh no, this is the end for us. And then all of a sudden, SpongeBob flies in with his hydrodynamic spatula with turbo drive and other garbage that somehow exists. and he saves the day by making a million gazillion Krabby Patties and making a ton of money. So, of course, Mr. Krabs is more than happy to hire him because he just made so much money off of that deal. So, he hires SpongeBob. And that's pretty much that. Much to Squidward's dismay, SpongeBob is hired into the Krusty Krab. So, overall, I love this episode. I love this show. And, a lot of it, yeah, it's nostalgia. It's my childhood. Of course, there's going to be nostalgia there, but I love it beyond nostalgia. Like, I like to see what makes things that I like tick. I just don't like the feeling of, I like this, but I don't know why. I like to watch things until I understand what makes them good to me. Why I enjoy them. Why, dissecting it. That's what Soaking Up SpongeBob is all about. So, if you enjoyed this first episode of Soaking Up SpongeBob, leave a like and a comment, maybe, perhaps, of an episode you'd like me to do next. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being patient while I made this, because it kept on getting delayed. I'm really sorry about that, but here it is. So, Soaking Up SpongeBob. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye! Boop!